A high-stakes summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin is scheduled for later this week. This afternoon, there are questions about whether Ukraine's president will attend the meeting in Alaska. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington with the details.
President Trump is preparing for a historic summit with Vladimir Putin on American soil, as questions remain about whether Ukraine's President Zelensky will attend. President Trump announcing the two leaders plan to meet in Alaska this Friday. It comes as European leaders warn the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine. The U.S. ambassador to NATO saying Ukraine's participation in the summit is possible.
There can't be a deal that everybody that's involved in it doesn't agree to. And, obviously it's a high priority to get this war to end.
But Zelensky defiant, saying, quote, there is not a single real step from Russia towards peace. That is why sanctions are needed. Senator Lindsey Graham described what that peace deal could potentially look like.
You'll have some land swaps, but only after you have security guarantees to Ukraine to prevent Russia from doing this again. You need to tell Putin what happens if he does it a third time.
The timing striking. Trump announced the summit on the deadline day he's set to impose tough new sanctions on Russia if Putin didn't stop the fighting. But now Putin will visit the U.S. for the first time in nearly a decade without facing sanctions or committing to a ceasefire.
What is going to be the outcome of this? And the person who has to ask the most is, of course, President Zelensky, who is already sounding alarm bells in his commentary saying, look, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. We're not going to necessarily accept anything you decide about us. So he's clearly worried.
The last time Alaska hosted a high-stakes diplomatic gathering was in March of 2021. That is when senior officials with former President Joe Biden met with top Chinese officials in Anchorage. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.